Shout out to the FBA family. Shout out to the new black media. And of course, shout out to the new subscribers, those who've been tapping in to Liberation Minded Media. So what we're going to talk about today. Just one basic, very simple concept. And that is, you got to know who's who. You got to be able to not only know who's who, but respond accordingly. So I'm going to go through a few different scenarios, a few different examples, just to keep the theme as we build up to the end, which will be Taharka Bey. But it's not really even going to be about just Taharka Bey. It's going to be about even those who support him. And you'll understand by the time I get to the end. But we're going to go through a few different examples. Might step on some toes. But I want y'all to really just listen and pay attention and think about what I'm saying. And if you disagree, that's cool. Put it in the comment section. So we're going to go through a few different, we have to address the FBA tether situation. We got to, because that's part of knowing who's who for real legitimate reasons. We got to address the Kanye West. We got to. No hate. There's going to be absolutely no hate. Just information for understanding and action. One very simple example for not knowing who's who and how dangerous that could be. Something we're all familiar with. It's been in the media, it's been in the news. Sister Shaquilla Robinson. Sister Shaquilla Robinson had people around her who she thought she knew. She thought she knew her quote unquote friends, whom she paid out of pocket to take them all down to a vacation spot in Mexico. Well, those friends that she thought she knew ended up killing her. Killing her, calling her mama, saying that she overdosed on alcohol, trying to fleece her mama for another 5 G's as they took 10 G's off her body before they dipped. Those were people who she thought were friends. No one broke up the fight. They went home, started making all kinds of videos, no remorse in the videos. Now let me ask you something. Do you think there was anything within Shaquilla's spirit that maybe detected some resentment at some point in time for one of those friends at any time? Any kind of jealousy detected? Likely there would have had to be some type of engagements or exchanges that indicated some type of jealousy or resentment. There had to be some intuitive, this person is kind of jealous. This person has some type of resentment, some type of anger built up. But did she act on that? And this is not me disrespecting her or undermining her or what she went through. But I'm saying it's likely there would have had to be some type of red flags at some point that maybe were ignored. And this is why I say it's not just about knowing who's who, but responding appropriately by isolating those away from you once you do determine who's who. But first you have to be able to determine who's who. And these days it ain't really that hard. Like the examples I'm going to show you are so clear cut, there's really no discussion. It's all about if you accept it or not. That's what it's going to boil down to. Do you accept the fact that there are some people in your personal life or collectively that we invest in that really don't have our best interests and who have clearly shown this. So that's one example. Easy enough, right? And this can go for your own personal life. It's like you're with someone who you have a intuition of who this person is, whether it's a friend, whether it's a lover, whether it's a family member, and they sabotage or betray you in some kind of way because you didn't know who's who, or you did, but you didn't respond properly. Let's start this off with Stephen A. Smith. Knowing who's who. So, of course, this is somebody, and the reason this is important is because they put certain people, there are certain people who are elected to be in front of us as representatives who have contempt for us and put out a certain narrative or show vitriol and hatred towards us. We have to be able to identify who's who. So I don't want to beat a dead horse with something that I'm sure everybody's familiar with, but this is a clip from Stephen A. Smith when the news came out about Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, being present before a scuffle broke out because they didn't, the white folks in Dallas or wherever that was at, I think it was maybe Arkansas, didn't want to integrate the schools. So we all know about that, but this was the response of Stephen A. Smith.
I'm pretty pissed off.
He's pissed off.
And let me say this. I'm pissed off, but not for reasons that people would think. I'm very, very fond of Jerry Jones, and I'm not hiding that from anybody. Is his record?
Hold up, this is somebody who, even before those photos came out, has been identified as a racist plenty of times. And not only is he very, very pissed off at us, black people, for dragging him appropriately, but he's very, very fond of Jerry Jones. Let him continue.
Perfect, no. But I'm pissed off because he doesn't deserve what just happened. He doesn't deserve it. One report, our report, said he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Another report said he was 15 years old. At minimum, that's 65 years ago. You're going to bring up a picture of Jerry Jones standing at this protest. No question, what was happening is not something that anybody as a black person should be appreciative about. We had 6 students at that particular North Little Rock High School that was trying to desegregate the school.
No one should be okay with it.
Nobody should be okay with that.
Regardless of
We
race.
understand that. We get all of that. We also understand what we as black people and as black folks, black men have to deal with. And by the way, to some degree, we still deal with a lot of things, and we all know it. Racism is alive and well. Bigotry and prejudice is alive and well. We get all of that. But you're going to bring up a photo of him when he was 14, 15 years old, 65 or 66 years ago.
Hold up. And I know this point's been made before, but let's make the point again. Since we're saying that there's a certain amount of time that we shouldn't bring up people's past, just for public scrutiny, it's not like this dude's going to go to jail for this. It's not like he's going to be charged with the crime, face litigations, and prison time. We're just saying, whoa, this is confirmation of what we've already seen throughout your career. So he's using the old, it was a long time ago routine. But what about Bill Cosby? No proof. People came out with allegations 40 years later. What about Michael Jackson? They came out with allegations after he was deceased. So it's okay to go back as far as you need to go back to prosecute, character assassinate, and lock up ours. When it comes to Jerry Jones, he was only 14. Well, so was Emmett Till. Trayvon Martin was only 17. Tamir Rice was only 12. So this is the type, and I'm not even going to play the rest of the clip, but this is the type of Negro that they'll put in front of us to make these arguments, because they couldn't do it with one of their own without looking blatantly racist and like they're trying to steer a narrative. But they'll use ours who are willing. But is he really even ours? Well, according to Wikipedia, this dude ain't even FBA. So he's weighing in on FBA topics and concerns, but he's not even FBA. According to Wikipedia, his parents are from the Virgin Islands. See, this is why it's important to know who's who, because we wouldn't know that by his name unless we did a little bit of research or found out some other type of way. See, other tethers that come in our realm, we know. We could tell by the accent, we could tell by the name, we could tell by certain factors, but some of them we can't if they come from certain areas that are English-dominated areas with English last names. They could slide in, and this has been a tactic that they have used for decades. Something that we just recently started getting hip to. This is why it's very important. Because if we have our B1 agenda and reparations is on the menu, injustice is on the menu, and controlling our own narrative is on the menu, we can't allow people who don't really represent us and who aren't really even us being our spokesperson. It's not about hate. You know, when the ADOS and the FBA first kind of, those terminologies came back to the surface, and it was all about tribe up and hold your own nuts and all that, I understood the importance and necessity of that, even though I felt it was potentially divisive and maybe even not as necessary as some was making it to be. But then when you look at it from a political standpoint, if we're speaking about reparations, well, who's going to qualify for reparation? It's going to be those who came from the soil. Like there's different for if you came from St. Thomas or Jamaica or whatnot, then you have to address that with those governments. But you damn sure can't weigh in, especially negatively, against that. You can't represent us, especially when your mind state is that of resentment towards us. And as I reflect and look back, I've been in situations and relationships and had friendships with people who were not FBA. And yes, they have a mentality, or their parents taught them a certain mentality of how to think about us. This is just a fact. And you could just tell that from the way they act. It's not a coincidence that a high percentage of those who go against us now, don't get it twisted. We have our own coons that we have to continue to check and isolate and determine and expose who's who in that realm. That's part of the game. But when you look at it on a per capita basis, disproportionate amount of those who publicly are used against us are tethers. That's just what it is. And we got to handle our own business. And if you ain't rocking with us, then we ain't rocking with you. That's what it boils down to. So yeah, this is not even one of ours. Yeah, he's part of our broader family. But when it comes to certain things that we're speaking about in this country, he ain't got no business speaking for us. Just like we wouldn't have any business going down to the Virgin Islands or Jamaica or Haiti or DR or like Nigeria, Gambia, trying to interfere with what they have going on when they're fighting the challenges that they have. If we're not going to assist, we have no business getting on a television program undermining them. So therefore, we ain't going to allow them to do the same here. And it's important for another reason. But play you this clip of a dude named Coleman Hughes, aka Coleman Cruz. Now, my last YouTube channel that's been taken down, I played a video, this same video I'm going to play for you. And I also played another video just showing you his background, because this is another tether, Puerto Rican, wannabe rapper. I remember when I checked his Instagram when this hearing first happened. See, first of all, let's bring it back. See the importance of what we're doing in the new black media. And that don't just mean the larger platforms. I'm talking about all of us who's tweeting and posting and sharing and commenting and liking, and that's starting to synchronize with this B1 philosophy. Is that we're moving the needle and we're codifying our people, not just on an internet basis, but also with organization in the communities. And that's in part, this push for reparations we've been hollering for the last few years is in part why this particular hearing even took place in front of the Senate. But what they did is they grabbed people like Herschel Walker, literally, and people like this cat right here to represent us. Now, this was not too long after the LGBT usurped the 1964 Equality Act. And I remember I went live on my channel that I had then, and I said what they're going to do is, now that they have usurped the status of being a civil rights group, now they're going to have influence to weigh in on things like reparations. And I said that truly believing that, and lo and behold, not too long after that, this happens. Now, a little bit of background about this dude before I play this clip. He's a wannabe rapper from Puerto Rico. He had a video, you still might be able to find it on Instagram or somewhere, I couldn't find it. But he had a video of himself dancing around in underoos. Matter of fact, if you check out Professor Black's Truth's channel from way back then, he had it on loop, where I actually got the footage from my channel. And this dude is dancing around in the subway and on the subway in underoos, sliding down the pole in nothing but his underoos. A wannabe gay rapper, or a gay wannabe rapper, I should say, from Puerto Rico, representing our reparation needs in front of the government. This dude had less followers than me on Instagram, and I don't have nothing but about 700, 800 followers. So who was this dude to be able to speak on our behalf? A nobody. He was just willing to play the game. But this is what he said, though. Let's go ahead and play this.
Thank you, Chairman Cohen, Ranking Member Johnson, and members of the committee. It's an honor to testify on a topic as important as this one. Nothing I'm about to say is meant to minimize the horror and brutality of slavery and Jim Crow. Racism is a bloody stain on this country's history, and I consider our failure to pay reparations directly to freed slaves after the Civil War to be one of the greatest injustices ever perpetrated by the U.S. government. But I worry that our desire to fix the past compromises our ability to fix the present. Think about what we're doing today. We're spending our time debating a bill that mentions slavery 25 times, but incarceration only once, in an era with no black slaves, but nearly 1 million black prisoners. A bill that doesn't mention homicide once, at a time when the Center for Disease Control reports homicide as the #1 cause of death for young black men. I'm not saying that acknowledging history doesn't matter. It does. I'm saying there's a difference between acknowledging history and allowing history to distract us from the problems we face today. In 2008, the House of Representatives formally apologized for slavery and Jim Crow. In 2009, the Senate did the same. Black people don't need another apology. We need safer neighborhoods and better schools. We need a less punitive criminal justice system. We need affordable health care. And none of these things can be achieved through reparations for slavery.
Yeah, you hear them folks in the background? He just mentioned everything that he says we need, and none of them could be achieved through reparations. So better health care can't be achieved through reparations. Better education can't be achieved through reparations. Safer neighborhoods can't be achieved through an economic stimulus plan directly for us, the descendants of those who were enslaved on this soil. See, remember though, he's Puerto Rican, so he wouldn't get reparations. And he's LGBT. And as we know, the LGBT, and this is the danger of that act that went by that put them in a civil rights status. See, most of the LGBT are well-off white men. So if they could weigh in on things like reparations, yes, they're going to send someone who looks like us, who doesn't agree with us, to be that spokesperson, to shoot down the idea of reparations. They're having somebody who doesn't even qualify for the reparations and whose family didn't even go through what we went through here in this country as someone who's going to speak on our behalf to the government about reparations. This is why it's important to know who's who. So many people they could have picked to speak with the Senate. Claude Anderson, Dr. Claude Anderson, Cynthia McKinney, former senator, or House of Senator or Congresswoman. Farrakhan, we know that ain't gonna probably happen. Dr. Boyce Watkins. There's dozens of people who could have been the ones addressing reparations at the Senate. They picked a homosexual tether nobody to undermine our push for reparations.
Everyone close to me, nearly everyone close to me told me not to testify today. They told me that even though I've only ever voted for Democrats, I'd be perceived as a Republican and therefore hated by half the country. Others told me that by distancing myself from Republicans, I would end up angering the other half of the country. And the sad truth is that they were both right. That's how suspicious we've become of one another. That's how divided we are as a nation. If we were to pay reparations today, we would only divide the country further, making it harder to build the political coalitions required to solve the problems facing black people today.
Bullshit.
We would insult.
That is straight bullshit. First of all, who gives a damn? We're not going to make new enemies with reparations. We're just going to be able to better protect ourselves from the ones that we already have and give us the leverage to close the wealth gap and build Black Wall Streets all over the nation and be repaid for the wealth building task that our ancestors had to do without payment. Because without that, people like him wouldn't be here right now. They wouldn't have came here if there wasn't any wealth for them to be able to attach themselves and tether themselves to. So this is why it's important to know who's who. Now we through with this dude. Now we're going to go ahead and get to the main event of why it's important to know who's who. And look, at this point, when it comes to this bitch ass nigga Toronto, aka Taharka Bey, the word's already out. The information is already out. So it's not really about him so much. But it's about the importance of identifying those who would co-sign. No, you know what? I'm getting ahead of myself. I forgot we got to get to the Kanye, right? We got to get to the Kanye. We'll get to this dude in a minute, but we got to get to the Kanye. We got to get to Ye. Yadoff. Hold on, where's the Yadoff at, man? Oh, I didn't put that picture in there. All right, I thought I put that picture in there. Anywho, we got to get to this because once again, like I said, it's not always about the specific individual, even though it is, but it's also about those who back him because they represent a segment of our society that we really need to be able to keep our eye on, identify, isolate, check, and or expose so that they can't double back and try to jump with us. But like Kanye, as I'm going to show you, those who support these backward individuals who don't really represent us are just as dangerous. I've had a lot of conversations with people on social media, and I know you've heard it, all the chess moves Kanye's making. He's a genius. Oh, you don't understand what he's doing. Oh, he's exposing Balenciaga. He's trying to devalue him. That's why he's making his shirts, his Ye 24 shirts on Balenciaga, and now he's selling them for $20. He's bringing down the value. Like, will you stop it? No, he's promoting. This is what I said. He's promoting Balenciaga just by doing that. He's marketing. He's letting people run around for $20 with Balenciaga, which is putting their name out there, keeping their brand and their marketing alive. And they're trying to tell me, he's ditching them. He's not fucking with them. They're pedophiles. He's going to expose them, this and that, right? See, and this is the thing. When you defend someone like a Taharka Bey, like a Kanye, even like a Donald Trump or any other idiot, what happens is they make you look stupid because you're going to make all these dumbass excuses for them, cover for them, and then they're going to turn around and do something that you can't defend that's going to go exactly against all the little fabricated story that you made up in your mind about why they're so genius and what their power move really is all about. So all y'all that was talking about, oh yeah, he's going to expose these guys and he don't fuck with them and that's why they dropped him because he was going to expose. No, they dropped him because he said some hot shit that he shouldn't have said, knowing who he was fucking with because he's the one that begged to get in all these contracts. But I know that his but this is his past though. Look at him. Like in my mind, Kanye West really wants to be a white supremacist. Cause who else is sporting this flag like this? This is a Confederate flag. This is the actual group of people who who waged war on the rest of the country for their rights to keep slaves. But of course, anything he does is genius. There's a reason why he's doing it. White Lives Matter. Catering to the alt-right, fucking with a Candace Owens. White Lives Matter, which we know was in direct response to Black Lives Matter. Which I'm not saying that we support Black Lives Matter like that, but just for the codification of it, we know that was a way to leverage our movement, despite the fact that we don't really rock with the organization. And we know White Lives Matter was a direct response to undermine that. Oh, let's not forget this picture. In this picture, Ye is being trolled because he's sitting up there with a MAGA hat, hugged up with these white dudes who's throwing up a white power sign right in his face. This is why you gotta know who's who. Did he say some real shit? Yes. He said some real shit. He said some shit I could fuck with. But how much can we fuck with him when he's showing us history of going against the grain in the worst ways, and it only gets worse and worse? Slavery was a choice. Right there is when we should have deaded him. Right there is when we should have checked him instead of making these excuses, because all the excuses that we made is what makes him think that he can continue during the, on this path of trolling us even. What else did I want to show you guys? Thought I had something else up here. I could have swore. Did I not put it up? Let me see. I had some tweets. Matter of fact, let me pause this real quick and get them tweets. All right, here we go. Yadoff. Of course, I don't think this is a picture that he put out. I think somebody else put it out, but he retweeted it. You know what I'm saying? Which is in part why he has his Twitter suspended again. And here's the thing. I don't really care about him trolling them folks. I'm all for it. Now, I mean, it don't get it twisted. It's not good for his brand. It's not good for his pockets. It's not good for his future business endeavors. But you know what I'm saying? I don't mind. I would much rather that than him trolling us with the buddying up with alt-right against us. So, I mean, I'm not really mad at this. I'm just saying, what about this? Never turn your backs on the Balenciaga family for life. Cancel culture. This is for all y'all who was saying that, oh, he's just really trying to crush the Balenciaga family because they're pedophiles and this and that. Look, man, he begged to do business with these major corporations knowing who the fuck they were. I mean, you can't say he's a genius on one hand, but then he just recently found out things that we've already known about some of these elite groups and brands, about how racist they are, about the pedophilia rings that they operate in. You can't tell me he just found this type of shit out. And you can't tell me that this is him. I stand by Balenciaga and denounce all witch hunts, and I cancel culture. Jesus is king. Ending trafficking doesn't start with fashion. Maybe not. Maybe it doesn't start with fashion. But if this fashion brand, multi-million or billion-dollar company, is supporting and pushing it, it doesn't hurt to start there or to at least address that. But no, y'all was telling me that, no, he's really going against them and this and that. And I told you, like, oh, no, he's not. As soon as he said he's going to put Ye 24 on their product and sell it for $20 right there, you should have known what was going on. You can't say he's a genius, but he doesn't realize that doing that alone is promoting and marketing the brand. And then there's these kind of tweets right here. So like I said, when you try to defend some of these goofies, you end up looking stupid. You end up looking like a fool trying to defend some certain cats because you don't want to admit the fact that maybe you're overly invested and you're not paying enough attention, or you're too biased even against your own benefit to your own detriment. Because what? Because he makes good music? Okay, whatever. That's how you're doing it. God loves Balenciaga. Love is the answer. Praying for all the innocent artists and beautiful humans who make clothing that had nothing to do with the ads. People's grandmothers worked there for Christ's sake. People's grandmothers worked there. It actually should be THERE, but whatever though. He doesn't read, so he can't write. Whatever. But I'm just saying that this is just how foolish you look trying to support and make excuses for certain people. And what you're really doing is empowering that same type of behavior. And this is why I wanted to play this clip right here before I get to the Taharka Bey, because this is a good transition. We're speaking about defending people who don't really have your best interests or who really don't have any right or shouldn't be our spokespeople because they go against the grain too much, and you defending them empowers them further. And that's going to transition to what I was about to get into, which is the Taharka Bey. But first, I want you to listen to this real quick. This is from Professor Black Truth. And he was actually doing a video on a play about pedophiles and how they're pushing this agenda to normalize it, something that a lot of us have already known. But listen to what he said.
And they don't want to wait. They want to transform the society now. They want to groom and normalize their view on your children now. You all better start becoming super vigilant, because you cannot send your children anywhere unaccompanied and unsupervised. There's a bunch of parents out there, and that's who this is really intended for. This is intended to start spreading the field. You all got to understand there are a number of people who are, they might not be pedophiles, they might not even be pedophile sympathetic, they don't have to be. As long as they are not willing to stand up to this, long as they're willing to tolerate it. You can be tolerant, can't you? As long as they're willing to tolerate this, that's enough. That's enough to give these folks breathing room. Long as they're willing to tolerate it, to start spreading the field. You all got to understand there are a number of people who are, they might not be pedophiles, they might not even be pedophile sympathetic, they don't have to be. As long as they are not willing to stand up to this, long as they're willing to tolerate it. You can be tolerant, can't you? As long as they're willing to tolerate this, that's enough. That's enough to give these folks breathing room. Long as they're willing to tolerate it.
So that's why I say it's bigger than bitch ass Taharka Bey. Now, I know people have been sending me screenshots. They've been sending me clips of things he's been saying about me, putting my picture on his videos and shit like that. I don't really even care at this point. I don't. Because the information that I've been putting out has been 100%. And it's starting to grow to the point to where now it's undeniable because too many people have seen this right here. So there's no excuses. So those who want to tolerate it, and I'm going to show you some comments from one of his videos just to show you exactly what the brother was just speaking about when we're talking about tolerating certain behavior and why that's dangerous. First, let's go to let's go ahead and address the point of what this is right here. Because when this information first came out, Taharka Bey wasn't really concerned with it because it was just me and a few other small platforms that was putting it out. And he knew he could overpower our views with his because he had a bigger machine. But you see, real grassroots, real change, real activism starts at the bottom and gets its way up, not the other way around. So his only argument was, hey, those are small channels, basically fuck them. But hey, my channel could be small, but it can grow. But your integrity is not going to get better when you have things like this. And for some of y'all who remember, the first thing that he said was, oh, you guys doctored that. You guys made that up. That's not really what it is. You guys hooked that up and did some photoshopping and all this shit. Then he pulled it up for himself. Then he actually pulled the original paper out. So he knew the whole time that shit was on there. So he went from it was doctored to I'll explain it later to never mind, I'm not going to explain it, to now he has no choice but to start trying to explain it. And his explanation for this is that, no, this just means that it was checked. It's not really means that I was on this registry. It just means that it was checked. But common sense should be enough for you to understand that, no, that's not what this is saying. It's not saying they just checked. Because by that standard, you're saying that they didn't check for warrants? You're saying they didn't check if he was a wanted person? But then again, he says that we can't read, right? Well, now let's use some common sense and reading comprehension skills. It says registered / which means and or lifetime sex offender, capital Y. Now, if it was just saying that we check, it would say something like registered or sex offense registry. meaning that, yes, we checked it, but that's not what it says. It's asking the question if this particular agency has him registered and or listed as a lifetime sex offender, and it says why. See, the same person who will try to convince people with no information that this person's a scammer, this person's an agent, this person's a murderer, no type of information. But the same people who will believe that won't believe black and white documents right in front of their face. The same people who don't believe that can see, and y'all have already seen this. Of course, this is when he was beating one of his kids' moms. These are court records. We're not believing that, but we're believing these crazy ass plebiscite babbles and conspiracy theories that he's putting out with no evidence. But those same people, or the same people, see that now that Tariq Nasheed has been bringing it out. Shout out to Tariq for that. Now he has to explain away these things that are unexplainable. It's right there in your face. It's not anything that's like real difficult to understand. It's right there. So at this point, we have to assume that people just don't know, or they just don't really care because they're just as despicable, or they're willing to tolerate it. So that's why it's important to know who's who. Because we even have to know not just those who are perpetrating certain activities and actions, but who's also tolerating it. Who's the mother who would allow their boyfriend to molest their daughter or their son because they don't want to lose the nigga? You know, she might not be the one that's doing the activities, but she's tolerating it. She's denying it when it's told to her what's happening. And I know we have a plenty of that, or more than enough of that, in our community. Yeah, maybe you wouldn't hurt children, but you'll allow them to be hurt. You'll pretend you don't believe it so you don't have to address the situation. And here we go. Look at this first comment. Tariq seems a part of the rainbow community. His cadence, pettiness, feminine energy come through loudly. So here's somebody who could speculate on the sexual orientation of Tariq Nasheed. But this right here, he's okay with. This isn't proof enough, but just because he doesn't like the way a certain person talks, all of a sudden he can condemn them for sexual dysfunction and all that. But of course, this right here, no concern. Who else we got? Good on you for being accessible. We all made bad choices before waking up, but good Moors don't deny their past. Okay. So in other words, you can tolerate this. You can tolerate this. That's okay. Tolerating. After here, okay, what else we got? Utmost respect. Your transparency is undeniable. As you said, this one was for if you know, you know. Gratitude for your service to the community. No service, no tangible service to the community is on his resume. The only community resume he has is being a sex offender, a woman, a child abuser, a multiple fundraising scammer, a robber, breaking and entering. Those are the things. That's the only resume he has. He doesn't have a resume where you can say, oh, yes, he did this for the community. There's none of that. What else we got? GS, I understand you weren't convicted of that case, but evidently it's still on your record. He was convicted. He was actually convicted several times of DVs. But anyway, but since the pimp was able to get a copy, so he's like, hey, you need to learn how to cover these things up. Get that shit expunged. Let me help you cover these kind of things up. I tolerate your behavior. I'm okay with it. But you need to just get it covered up. This is why it's important to know who's who. Who are the type of Negroes who would let that type of shit slide? because we don't want them doubling back on our movement later. What else we got? That's one of his agent handlers right there. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. But are there some things that there's no turning back from or not? Do we have a standard that we're going to enforce when you call yourself a person of the people? And are we going to allow someone with a record like this to be the compass of morality for our people? Having the right to critique those who don't have things like this on the record, in fact, who don't have anything negative in most cases. Most of the people he go against, nobody else is calling them scammers or cheats or lies or detriments to the community. He's going against them because he doesn't like their ideology. Really, he's going after them because, because that's his job as an Agent Coon. As someone who has been caught with multiple times doing illegal activity but doesn't get time, getting all the time suspended. Someone who caught a bunch of cases right before he started Morris World TV, which has only been a program for undermining black organizations, institutions, and individuals that are actually doing things in the community productive. Think about that. Let's see what else people got to say. They just want to come out the light. They want to say, never. Peace, great show after today. People will definitely be getting the point. I think all of them should get hit with rocks by the whole community. So he's not worried about. See, he's mad at Tariq Nasheed. They're mad at Tariq Nasheed because he makes money. But I don't recall anyone ever calling Tariq Nasheed a scammer. I recall everything he's raised money for, he has produced, including the museum, several movies, books, the reparations rally. See, everything he raises money and says he's going to do, he does. And I don't hear anyone who has donated or bought a product from him complaining. The only people complaining are those who didn't support it in the first place and those who aren't doing anything to replace that since they don't agree with that. Look at this. They're talking about right here, Tariq Nasheed, one of his raps, because he was rapping some greasy stuff back in the 90s. So they're more concerned with the way he's rapping than they are with this. Like, do you see the disconnect of why we need to know who's who? Like I said, it's the same thing when you have these idiots following narcissists who don't mean us any good, making excuses the same way they make excuses for Ye. And then he turns around and does some shit that's unexcusable, but they don't care. They'll continue to make these excuses. These are the kind of people that we have to make sure we know who's who, so we don't allow them within our circumference of what we're trying to do. It's better that these people are gathering around and making themselves known over there. But they're not getting shit done. They're not pushing the needle. There's no grassroots organizations that connect with the Taharka Bey. He's in Baltimore, one of the most challenging communities in the country. No grassroots activities going on. We'll get to some gaslighting and some capping that he's trying to do in a minute. But let's just see. These are the kind of people that support him. Let me see. Tariq needs to disappear into oblivion with his scam. What's the scam? Like, I'm not here to cape for Tariq Nasheed. There's some things I don't agree with about him. But how can I be mad at someone who is doing what they say they're going to do? At least whatever he believes and what he stands on, he's actually walking the walk. Yeah, he might be petty, he might be an asshole, he might be a comedian at times, but when he says, hey, I'm going to come out with this movie, can you guys help me with the Kickstarter? He comes out with the movie and puts out quality projects. When he says, hey, we want to raise some money to get this museum, I think it's going to be important for us to have a museum because they're whitewashing our history and we need to be able to control our own narrative. He did that. Where's the scam? So like the audacity of this person that says this, but at the same time, you have Moorish World TV, Taharka Bey, who has raised money for a Moorish village since 2017. It hasn't produced it. Raised the money, flipped the money, never produced what he said he was. But he's calling everybody else a scammer. Raised money for a van years ago, never produced it. Raised money for a van recently, saying that he was going to go cover the Brother Polite trial. Not only did he not produce the van, he has not went to the trial, and he hasn't even spoke on the trial. Of all the things that this dude will go in on productive members of our community, but he hasn't said a word about someone who is facing trial for molestation of a 14-year-old. How sway? How sway? He hasn't went in on Nature Boy and his allegations, which he's in jail for right now for rape and kidnapping. Nothing to say about them. But Malik Zulu Shabazz, of course, he's all on it. In fact, oh, he's on it. Tariq Nasheed, oh, he's on it. Pansock, he's on it. Sisters of the Underground, which is actually an organization that frees or that rescues, with Pansock, sex trafficked young ladies and domestic violence women. He attacked them for weeks. But he has nothing to say about Brother Polite. How fucking sway. So that's what I'm saying, man. This is the type of people, the type of idiots. Look at it. Absolutely not, Tarka. I'm a Mason. Okay. That's what I'm saying, though. So this is why you got to know who in the fuck is who. Because if not, let's get back to this real quick.
We need to rethink how much of a, quote, victim your children are. We need to rethink that. And when you take a look at the colors and racial makeup on your screen here, seems they're trying to use us as their usual shield to promote their sick, deviant ways. Every time somebody wants to inject some deviancy and sexual confusion, they go try to wrap themselves in black folk. They try to make black people the face of it. They try to mix black folk in on it to shield themselves. I want you to be aware of that.
And unfortunately, to some degree, it's working, because we used to be the ones that would always go against certain things, like an agenda of homosexuality and demasculation being pushed on our community. Like whatever sexual preference, that's your business. But we know the agenda. We used to be the ones that would push back towards certain things. Now we're starting to allow it. Now we're excusing it. And what's interesting is the first comment on this right here was somebody saying that Tariq Nasheed was part of the rainbow community. However, the Grand Sheik, Taharka Bey, his master teacher, is not just a homosexual, but a homosexual that was kicked out of the temple for being caught with underage boys. Yes, that is a fact. You heard me clearly. Taharka Bey's master teacher, who made him a Grand Sheik, of course, he didn't have the authorization to do so because at the time he was already kicked out the temple for messing with little boys. And he was the only person who would, quote unquote, grant Taharka that title. He wasn't authorized to do it when he did it. Nobody else would do it, but he took some money and maybe some booty from Taharka to give him that false title. Now, here is Taharka Bey trying to cap like he's really in the community, teaching the generation. So here's where I gotta salute FBA, the B1 riders, because when he posted this picture trying to troll Tariq Nasheed, trying to front like, oh, he's in there because he went to his kid's school and took a picture with all the kids. This was the response from people on this tweet. You're really a clown, dude, using people's kids for a photo opportunity to counterbalance your dirty paperwork. Shaking my head. He can't be that close to kids, can he? This was my little response, because, you know, this just kind of looks creepy to me. It's like, you know, it's just kind of creepy. This picture right here, especially when you in lieu of this, yeah, that looks kind of creepy. Why would you smear feces in a woman's face? So this information is getting out. This is what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, like, regardless, it's out there to the point where you can't deny it now. Everyone knows. So you have to pick sides. Are you making excuses for it or not? Or are you standing on some real principles? Random adult strangers' feces, other adults smeared in your face, which is what I pictured, or your own baby's feces on a baby wipe thrown at your face by the father, all assumed during a heated argument. Are those the same things? Honest question. So she's kind of trolling. Are you even supposed to be around kids, bruh? I don't think so. Your court records say that you put feces on a female's face and abused children. You're a sick weirdo. What made you physically abuse your ex? You even hit her in the face with a soiled baby wipe. Really? Is that how you deal with conflict resolution? Is that the example you're trying to be for these impressionable children? See, this is why you need to know who's who. Because do you think the parents of these children are aware of this? And if they were, do you think that they would allow him in there around their children? I'm going to assume no. That they don't know who's who when it comes to him. Lord, who the hell is letting a convicted sex criminal around their children? Well, somebody who doesn't know. And let's get back to the convicted sex criminal, because I know that you can't find his name on the registry. The biggest reason being because, well, depending on when the offense happened, you don't have to register forever, unless your lifetime. Also, not registering is only a misdemeanor, and we've seen him beat felony cases with all time suspended and no court fees. Somehow, magically, somebody who was already on parole catches a case, doesn't even plead, doesn't take the plea, takes it to trial, loses, and still doesn't get zero time. That's suspicious. So not registering as a sex offender only being a misdemeanor, that could be why he's not on that registry. Or he could have had some help from the Alphabet Boys. Now, like I said, the time just could have elapsed. But we know in 2016, which isn't that long ago, he was on the sex offense registry, and you can't be on the registry unless you're convicted, not just accused, not just allegedly, not just charged. You have to be convicted. So maybe he did get some things expunged. Because, yeah, those records, we you know what I'm saying? The people that's been sending me this information hasn't been able to find that shit yet. So I'm assuming maybe it has been expunged. But make no mistake, you can't be on the register unless you're convicted, which means at some point he was convicted. Let's see what else we got. Sir, if I'm not mistaken, you shouldn't be around children. True. There must be a few adults around because I don't think those kids are safe around you. You know how I do. Them kids' parents know you have dirty paperwork. This photo is evidence. Registered sex offenders aren't supposed to be around kids, right? I've never seen a black person wear New Balances. Okay. A pure pedo, you got exposed. Now, I'm not saying he's a pedo. I don't know if he's a pedo or not. We just know that he's a sex offender. This is not how you conduct constructive dialogue with people you disagree with. FBA isn't about that, though. They're just about talk. So this is somebody that fucks with him. They're not about that. No. But he's excusing this, is what he's saying. But that's okay. As long as we know who he is, right? Shut up, Trick. Real close to his. I think they're saying because of this little kid that's right between his legs. And typically I wouldn't even say that's suspect, but when in light of this, it sure could be, right? What else we got? So, I mean, it's good that people are pulling up and giving them that smoke. And that's exactly what you should do. Give them the smoke every single chance you get. Make him continue to have to explain these things, because the more he explains all this stuff that's coming out about him, the more he's going to slip up, and the less it's going to make sense. So for those who are really on the fence because they really don't know, because maybe they just really, haven't came to the right conclusion, at least they can see. But some of the people already, they don't really care, because they probably have just as egregious records, or they're just willing to tolerate it. Let's see what else we got. Shut up, Trick. We're gonna say that part. You're a sick individual. Get help, fam. Your paperwork is back. Came back dirty. What else we got? You posting kids at 1:36 a.m. You're a real weirdo. Dude, you're a documented sex offender. Check. And here's somebody's trolling, saying that, now that you had your rally for reparations, did you get any reparations? As if, it's just going to happen that quick. Right? But of course, this is a tether. You know what I'm saying? Like we've moved the needle more in the last few years than we have in over a century, without the help of these detractors. But they're going to troll because it didn't happen instantly. But they don't mind the fact that the person that they're trying to praise hasn't done anything. This is the backwards thinking. This is why we have to know who's who. Who let this dude around children? Call CPS. So anyway, I'm just going to end it like that, because I think I've made my point at this point. I didn't want to make this too long, and I don't really want to keep addressing this dude, because at this point, everybody knows what. But moving forward, not just when it comes to him, when it comes to anything in our personal life, those who represent us in media, politics, in these YouTube streets, you got to know who's who. The difference of not knowing who's who and not responding appropriately could be life or death. Peace.